The man hid the money he had just stolen in his underwear, and then dressed up carefully, managed to fool the plane's security, just a little too good looking. The man left the United States, fled to Mexico. The man with the money spends like crazy in Mexico. He starts eating pancakes like crazy, and then he goes to a 5-star hotel for a spa treatment. It's the pancakes he just ate. There was a chemical reaction. The hot spring pool changed color instantly. The man's name is De Zhuang, originally a bank vault security guard. He was an honest man in the eyes of his colleagues. To play handsome in front of his goddess May, he almost blew his own turtle. But such a strange and honest man. But he was one of America's most wanted criminals. It turns out that Xiao Mei almost killed her leader with a gunshot because she accidentally discharged her weapon. He almost killed his boss with a shot. That's why he was fired from his job. After losing his job, May had nothing to do. She hangs out with a group of friends. The older brother is a man called David. She was just released from prison recently. On this day, he was in front of the TV. He saw a job opening for a vault, so he got the idea of the vault and asked Xiao Mei to approach De Zhuang. He asked Da Zhuang to join him. At first Da Zhuang was afraid of being in jail. He refused Xiao Mei's request, so Xiao Mei used a beauty trick, promised him that after the job was done, she would be his girlfriend. When De Zhuang heard that there was a good thing to do, he immediately agreed to do it. The next day the action began. David and the others waited outside. De Zhuang took advantage of the fact that all his colleagues were off duty. He went back to the vault alone. De Zhuang, who normally didn't care about money, seeing the money piled up in front of him, for the first time, he showed his greed for money. Da Zhong threw bundles of dollars into the carriage, while De Zhuang was busy with his work. Hey, a colleague forgot to take the keys to his home, and rushed back. He saw Da Zhuang loading the money. Da Zhuang hastily explained that he had stayed behind to work overtime. Brother Black seemed to be an honest man. Da Zhuang didn't think much of it, turned around and went home. After seeing his colleagues leave, Da Zhuang also relaxed, so he continued to fill the carriage with money. It didn't take long for the carriage to be filled up. Then Da Zhuang smashed all the surveillance cameras. He also mixed the videotapes from the surveillance room. Just as Da Zhuang was getting carried away, he forgot that there was still a security camera. He forgot that there was still one surveillance camera left. There was too much money in it. The trunk wouldn't close, so Da Zhong climbed into the trunk. He was about to rearrange it, but then the door was suddenly unlocked. Then he opened the small window of the trunk, trying to get into the cockpit, but he got stuck on his buttocks. At that moment, Da Zhong suddenly saw a bundle of tape. A bold idea came to his mind. He first tied the banknotes together, then he pressed the banknotes against the accelerator, and so the car started successfully. He crashed through the wall of the gate. It came to a stop on the lawn. David's eyes went wide at the sight of the carload of money. So they gave Big John $20,000 for the trip. So they gave him $20,000 to go to Mexico to get away from it. Then Da Zhong arrived in Mexico alone, and he started to live like a piece of shit. But soon the money ran out. Da Zhuang called David for money. David agreed on the surface. When he hung up the phone, he hired a hitman to kill Da Zhuang. This killer is the most sentimental person I have ever met, because he loves old nostalgic weapons. So he bought an antique weapon in a weapon shop, bought an antique weapon at a high price, aimed it at a big strong man who was shopping. The next moment the weapon exploded. At night, Da Zhuang stole a watermelon to fill his stomach, but the killer found him. A bag was hit back. Da Zhuang fell into a coma. When Da Zhuang woke up again, he was already tied up in the bathtub of the hotel. When the killer saw Da Zhuang's ID, he found that they had the same name. They were also from the same village, so the killer's heart stirred again. He didn't kill Da Zhuang, and gave him a sum of money. He turned around and left the hotel. The next day, Da Zhong continued to call David to ask for money, and said that if he didn't pay him, then he would turn himself in. But David didn't panic at all. He even used Xiao Mei to blackmail Da Zhuang. So on the same day, he bought a ticket to go back. He was ready to save his goddess. When he returned to America, Da Zhuang dressed up in disguise. He came to David's birthday party, and found Xiao Mei. He was going to take her away with him. Then he called the police to report David. But the iron gate of David's house was too hard. It was so hard that it dented the car. The door was still intact. Mei was knocked unconscious as a result. At that moment David came over. The two of them soon got into a fight. Da Zhuang looked up and saw the policeman in the car behind him. But David didn't notice. He even told them everything. The policemen, who was worried about the lack of evidence, were worried that they would get something for nothing. Eventually they were all arrested, but the missing amount of money was still $2 million and they never found it. It turned out that Da Zhuang had kept the money for himself. He had hidden it away quietly. When he came out one day, he could use the money openly and honestly. That's the end of the film, but you'll never guess. Such an outrageous story. It's based on true events. The film Master of Crime is based on a real-life robbery. A real-life robbery that took place in South Carolina. The film is different from other films. It's an adaptation of the usual serious subject matter. The film is a comedy through and through. If you are interested, you can see the original film.